everyone, welcome to yet another interesting session of Quest for Literature. Today we are going to see the summary of The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. If you are watching this channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe as well as click on the bell icon and enable the all option so that you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Khushwant Singh was one of India's best known writers and columnists. He was the founder editor of the magazine Yojana. He is the author of classics such as Train to Pakistan, I Shall Not Hear the Nightingale, Delhi, The Company of Women, and Burial at Sea. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 1974, but he returned the decoration in 1984 in protest against the storming of Golden Temple by the Indian Army. In 2007, he was awarded Padma Vibhushan. Now let us jump into the summary of The Portrait of a Lady. The chapter The Portrait of a Lady is the story of the author and his grandmother. The grandmother was an old woman with a wrinkled face. The author had always seen her like this. For the past 20 years, she appeared to be so old that he could not imagine her being young and pretty. Someone who had a husband. She was short, fat, and slightly bent. The author had seen his grandfather's portrait. An old man with a turban and a long white beard covering his chest. To the author, his grandfather didn't seem like a man who could have a wife and children, but someone who could have lots of grandchildren. His grandmother used to move around the house in spotless white saris, with her one hand resting on her waist and the other hand counting the beads of her rosary. As a young boy, Khushwant Singh lived with his grandmother in the village as his parents were in the city. In the initial days, the author and his grandmother had a good relationship. She used to wake him up and get him ready for school. She used to pack the things required by him for the day and walked with him to school every day. She used to visit the temple that was attached to the school. Grandmother had a routine of reading the scriptures. The author, along with other children, sat on the veranda singing alphabets and morning prayers. They both used to come back home with stray dogs roaming around them, as his grandmother could carry the stale chapatis to feed them. Soon, the parents of the author who went to the city get settled in. They took both Khushwant Singh and grandmother with them. As they reached the city, his relationship with his grandmother took a turn. Though they shared the same room, their bond grew apart. He started going to an English medium school. He no longer accompanied him to his school, as he goes to school by motor bus, and there were no longer stray dogs who roamed around them while walking back home. Grandmother, however, used to ask him about his day and what he had learnt. She didn't understand anything, as everything was in another language, which she could not understand. One day, Khushwant Singh announced that they are taught music at school, and the grandmother was very disturbed because, according to her, music was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval, and grandmother rarely speak to Khushwant Singh after this particular incident. She didn't approve of the new syllabus that he was studying because she thought that they didn't teach him about God and the scriptures. They saw less of each other. As the days passed, he grew older and soon went to the university. He had his own room, and this made their relationship sour. She stopped talking to everyone and spent her whole day sitting at her spinning wheel, reciting prayers and moving beads of the rosary with one hand. However, she loved feeding sparrow in the veranda at dawn, breaking breads into pieces and feeding it to the birds was her daily routine. The birds could sit on her leg, her head, so even on her shoulder. Soon, Kushwant Singh decided to go abroad for further studies. Grandmother came to the railway station to leave him off. She was not sentimental, but she is continuously reciting her prayers. Her mind lost in the prayers, and she kissed him on the forehead. Kushwant Singh cherishes the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between them. After 5 years, as he returned home, she was there, came to pick him at the station, was still the same as she had been 5 years ago. She clasped him within her arms and didn't say a word. She still used to feed her sparrows. One day, the grandmother didn't recite her prayers, but instead collected the women in the neighborhood, got a drum, and started singing. The next morning, she was ill with mild fever. The doctor said that there was nothing to worry, but she was sure that her end was near. The grandmother didn't waste her time talking to anyone in the family anymore, but spent her last hours in reciting her prayers, laying on the bed. She died, so her body lay on the bed lifeless. As they prepared for her funeral, they saw all the sparrows sitting in the veranda around her, mourning her death. The sparrows flew away only after the corpse was carried away for the funeral rite. Kushwant Singh draws a pen picture of his own grandmother through this prose. Thank you all for listening. If you feel the video is good, do like it as well as share it with your friends. Till the time we meet next, stay tuned to Quest for Literature. Keep reading and know the world.